the numbers looking like? All this and lots more coming your way. Will Russia unleash its Oreshnik missiles to avenge Ukraine's mega drone attack? By now, you would have seen the headlines. Ukraine launched an audacious drone attack on Sunday, a massive coordinated strike that hit deep inside Russian territory. The operation was codenamed Spider's Web. It saw drones target at least 5 air bases in Russia, stretching from the Far East Amur region to the Arctic region of Murmansk. The scale was staggering. More than 40 Russian bombers were reportedly engulfed in flames. President Zelensky called it an attack undoubtedly meant for the history books. But Russia did not stay silent. In a swift and brutal counter-response, it launched a wave of overnight missile and drone strikes across Ukraine. The attack was timed just hours before the second round of the direct peace talks was set to begin in Istanbul. In fact, the talks concluded with Zelensky saying that Ukraine and Russia are working on a fresh exchange of prisoners of war. Zelensky was speaking in the Lithuanian capital, where he was attending a meeting of the Central European and Nordic states.
Today we see the situation clearly. If Russia turns the Istanbul meeting into an empty talk, there must be a new level of pressure, new sanctions, and not just from Europe. We need to work on joint sanctions at the G7 level, including with the United States and with everyone in the world who wants peace. It's very, very important that each of our partners supports this exact approach.
His aide, the Ukrainian Defense Minister, Rustem Umerov, told reporters in Istanbul that all key issues at the Russia-Ukraine talks could be resolved at the leadership level. But we couldn't help but ask, will Russia stop at targeting just Ukrainian cities, or is something far more devastating on the cards? Perhaps in the form of its Oreshnik IRBM. Just look at the developments from the battlefield. Deadly Russian attacks left a trail of destruction across Ukraine. In Zaporizhia, shelling reportedly killed 5 civilians. In Sumy region, a drone strike injured 6, including 2 children. In Donetsk, Russia reportedly captured 2 more settlements. Both sides also ramped up drone activity. Russia claimed its air defenses shot down 162 Ukrainian drones, with the bulk intercepted over the border regions of Kursk and Belgorod. Meanwhile, Ukraine reported that 80 Russian drones and 4 missiles were launched overnight, striking 12 targets inside its territory. But drones were not the only weapons in play. On Sunday, 2 rail bridges collapsed in Russia, in Bryansk and Kursk, regions that border Ukraine. This was before the Ukrainian drones pounded Russia's airfields. Moscow's investigative committee, in fact, has called the incidents acts of terrorism. In Bryansk, an explosion derailed a passenger train with 388 people on board, killing 7 and injuring 66. In Kursk, a freight train was hit by a blast, injuring the driver and 2 assistants. These back-to-back strikes on airfields, transport infrastructure, they all represent Ukraine's level of sabotage and drone warfare deep into Russian territory to date. Already, across Russian social media, pro-Kremlin bloggers have described Ukraine's drone attack as Russia's Pearl Harbor. Russia's Pearl Harbor. A symbolic and humiliating breach as well that demands a strong response from the Kremlin. In fact, speculation is already swirling online. Will Putin escalate? Will he threaten nuclear force again? And as far as Ukraine goes, what was it really hoping to achieve? Because here's the reality behind those headlines. Ukraine's military is under immense strain. Nearly 90,000 cases of desertion or unauthorized leave were reported in the year 2024. In the first 3 months of 2025 alone, there have already been over 45,000 cases, and many frontline units are operating at just 40 to 50% capacity. US military aid is also dwindling. What about Europe? It just lacks the production muscle to actually fill that gap. And against this, Ukraine's drone blitz seems less a strategic turning point and more a desperate attempt to try and reshape the battlefield momentum or even gain leverage before the peace talks. But the question is, will it work? And if the past patterns are anything to go by, it offers a cautionary tale. In August 2022, after a Ukrainian strike on Russia's Black Sea fleet, Russia launched weeks of missile attacks on cities like Kharkiv, the Dnipro. In 2023, repeated Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian targets were met with relentless Russian bombardment of Ukrainian positions, intensifying the brutality of the war. Last year's incursion into Kursk fizzled out. In August 2024, Ukraine's big cross-border raid in Russia's Kursk region, it ended this year with Russia reclaiming the entire territory and a brutal offensive in eastern Ukraine that is still underway. Now, once again, we may be on the cusp of another brutal phase. The bigger picture here is this escalation a game changer? Because Ukraine's gains have been sporadic and short-lived. In fact, according to reports, Russian forces have captured nearly 580 square kilometers in May alone. So yes, Ukraine has dealt a big blow to Russia this time with Operation Spiderweb, but in the grand scheme of things, with troops and arms shortage as well as faltering Western support, the battlefield still remains grim. And after its second round of direct talks with Russia in Istanbul, Ukraine's drone assault could either shatter fragile hopes for peace or force Russia to the table with renewed urgency and fury. Because one thing is clear here, Moscow rarely absorbs humiliation quietly. And the question still is, it's no longer if there will be retaliation, but how big and how soon it will come. And we're shifting focus for now. Pakistan has captured an Islamic State operative from the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. The man arrested, Ozgur Altun, also known as Abu Yasir al-Turki, is reportedly the highest-ranking Turkish member of ISIS. He allegedly plotted terror attacks across Europe, including a foil bombing at a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna in August 2024. Intelligence inputs from Turkey led to the arrest. Back in March, Pakistani authorities captured another top ISIS Khorasan commander, Mohammad Sharifullah, near the Afghan border. He was responsible reportedly for the deadly 2021 suicide bombing at the Kabul airport that killed 13 US service members. Tipped off by the US intelligence, Pakistan acted again. So let's be clear, when Washington or Istanbul orders, Islamabad follows through. But what really happens when India demands action? Take Masood Azhar, for example. the mastermind behind the 2001 Parliament and 2019 Pulwama attacks and the founder of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, remains missing. For years now, Pakistan has claimed before the Financial Action Task Force, the global watchdog for money laundering and terror financing, that it cannot find him, claiming he is hiding in Afghanistan. Yes, near the very same porous Pakistan-Afghanistan border where it just found the Turkish ISIS member and the ISIS-K commander. When tipped off by Turkey and US, is it just a coincidence? Or rather, is it convenience? It definitely is clear strategy. Pakistan uses the Afghanistan border as a diplomatic cover to avoid accountability. When the Financial Action Task Force grey-listed Pakistan, Masood Azhar vanished from their radar. And just like that, global terrorists like Azhar found a safe haven wherever Pakistan chooses. Remember, Osama bin Laden was not found hiding in a cave in Afghanistan. He was found in Abbottabad, less than a kilometer from Pakistan's military academy. That is not a coincidence. That's complicity. And the trend continues. Just last week, Nigerian forces arrested 4 Pakistanis allegedly training Boko Haram and ISIS-linked ISWAP in the country. They were not just Pakistani nationals, they were hired fighters for Pakistan. Terror exports, it seems, is a thriving business, which would explain why global terrorists are always found or sponsored by Pakistan. And Pakistan conveniently forgets where its own homegrown terrorists are, or does it? And staying with news about Pakistan, the begging bowl is back. Or maybe it never went away. Because despite what the Pakistan Prime Minister is claiming now, his speech is sounding more like a classic case of deja vu. What did he say? In Quetta, speaking to a group of military officers, the Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said Pakistan's allies from China to Saudi Arabia no longer expect Islamabad to come to them with a begging bowl. Instead, he says they want trade, research, innovation. In fact, Sharif called China Pakistan's most time-tested friend and praised other backers like Turkey, UAE, Azerbaijan, saying they all support partnerships and not pity. Yet, the narrative being painted rings hollow, especially with a new $2.3 billion IMF loan on the table. This would be Pakistan's 26th IMF bailout since 1958. 26th. Can you believe that? After the Pahalgam terror attack, India had strongly opposed IMF's loan to Pakistan, warning the money could again be diverted to fund cross-border terrorism. The IMF said the financial support it gave to Islamabad was part of an earlier agreement. In his speech over the weekend, Sharif also referenced Field Marshal Asim Munir, saying both of them would be the last to carry this burden. But here's a reality check for the Pakistan Prime Minister. With dwindling reserves, high inflation, dependency on allies, can the begging bowl really be put down so soon? On the military front, Sharif admitted again that Indian strikes during Operation Sindoor caught Pakistan off guard. He recounted how missiles hit airfields in Rawalpindi and Noor Khan just hours before Pakistan was set to respond. But despite military support from its allies like Turkey and Azerbaijan, Islamabad was still left reeling, and how, after the May missile blitz. In conclusion, the begging bowl may be a metaphor that Pakistan desperately wants to get rid of, but it remains a reality the country cannot escape, at least not anytime soon. Not unless Islamabad finally uses the generosity of its allies to build something real for its people. But then, given Pakistan's track record, we won't be holding our breaths on that one. And switching gears, India continues to witness a fresh spike in COVID-19 cases, according to data shared by the Health Ministry. In fact, India's active COVID-19 caseload has touched the mark of 3,961, while 32 deaths have been attributed to the infection since January. A total of 203 new COVID cases were recorded in the last 24 hours. Delhi emerged as the worst affected, followed by West Bengal, Kerala and Maharashtra. The Union Health Ministry data revealed West Bengal reported 44 new infections, followed by Delhi with 47, Kerala with 35, Gujarat with 18 new cases. Sikkim reported 1 new case in the last 24 hours. At least 4 deaths were reported in the past 24 hours, mostly due to pre-existing conditions. The deceased from New Delhi was identified as a 22-year-old female with post-tuberculosis lung disease and bilateral lower respiratory tract infection. In Tamil Nadu, a 25-year-old male with bronchial asthma and severe acute tubular injury and an incidental COVID-positive status succumbed to the infection. In Maharashtra, a 44-year-old male with severe acute respiratory distress syndrome also succumbed to COVID-19. Earlier in Karnataka, a 63-year-old man was diagnosed with pulmonary tuberculosis. In Kerala, a 24-year-old woman succumbed to COVID-19 due to pre-existing conditions of hypertension and chronic liver disease. The overall rise in new cases has been sharp. Kerala, currently the worst hit state, accounts for 1,435 active cases, followed by Maharashtra with 506, Delhi 483, Gujarat 338, West Bengal a total of 331 active cases. Other parts with rising numbers including Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. According to May 2025 classifications by the World Health Organization, subvariants LF7, LF.7 and NB.1.8.1 are categorized as variants under monitoring. In fact, Indian health officials have reassured people not to panic as all medical infrastructure is in place, and experts have advised keeping symptoms like nasal congestion, nausea, gut problems and throat pain under observation. And before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. What's the story behind Bangladesh's new bank notes? Why has the portrait of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman been replaced, and with what? We get the complete story. We tell you all about what things are looking like in India's northeast after heavy floods caused landslides. And we get to the latest from Colorado after a man allegedly threw Molotov cocktails at participants of a pro-Israel demonstration. All this and lots more coming up. The Israeli military has announced escalation of its ground operations inside the Gaza Strip. The IDF chief has directed troops to advance into new locations within the enclave amidst a major incident in southern Gaza. According to Gaza's health officials, Israeli gunfire near Rafah struck civilians who gathered at a food distribution point. The Gaza health officials said at least 31 people have died, over 170 people were injured in the incident. Eyewitnesses saying Israeli forces opened fire on people just as aid was being distributed.
We call on the entire Arab world and the international community to stop this bloodshed disaster. Stop this war. Why is this war completely targeting civilians? We are unarmed and just looking for food and clean drinking water. We went there simply to find something to eat. We have been suffering from a lack of water and food for over 100 days. Our children are dying of hunger and thirst. All of them were civilians just looking for food.
Many victims reportedly assembled in the hope of getting basic supplies like clean water.
They told them there is flour on the way. He went to get flour for his daughters. He was struck. He was martyred. They all went to get food. They went to get flour.
The Israeli military said an initial internal review found no evidence of its forces firing at civilians in or around the aid distribution area. They called reports suggesting otherwise as false.
Doing his best is almost to stop us from doing so. He is spreading rumors, fake news. He is trying bluntly and violently to stop the people of Gaza from reaching those distribution centers. We will investigate each and one of those incidents and each and one of those allegations.
International NGO Freedom Flotilla Coalition left the Italian port of Catania to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. A previous attempt had failed due to a drone attack on its ship in the Mediterranean. The crew volunteers, who include climate activist Greta Thunberg, set sail on the Madeleine carrying what the group called limited amounts, though symbolic. In fact, the human toll continues to climb in Gaza. In a post on X, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, citing data from UNICEF, said over 50,000 children in Gaza have either been killed or injured since October 2023. The agency described the crisis as one where no civilian, no child, no location in Gaza is safe anymore. And almost as if on cue, fresh Israeli airstrikes were reported again this morning in Gaza, with loud explosions and thick plumes of smoke rising above Gaza as seen from across the border in southern Israel. Footage on your screen coming up, also showing extensive damage in Gaza's Deir al-Bala area, where an alleged Israeli airstrike hit a mosque and nearby grave. Gaza's civil defense agency said another Israeli strike on a home in the northern town of Jabalia killed 14 people. Visuals showing Palestinians searching through the rubble of a building. As Israel pushes forward with its offensive, the situation in Gaza remains dire. The toll is over 54,000 since the start of the war, and it continues to rise. As India launched Operation Sindoor, a digital defense was also mounted to take down potential threats targeting critical online infrastructure. Reports suggest several hacker groups from Pakistan and Bangladesh tried to bring down Indian websites. Their main objective was to try and deface websites and breach sensitive data of the Indian government and private organizations. India, in response, took concrete steps to ensure its cyber protection. One among them was to secure its core administrative platform, e-Office. As per reports, access to e-Office, that serves as the digital backbone of file processing and internal communication across central ministries, was significantly restricted during the military standoff. Only users on select government networks were allowed access. And what exactly are these platforms? The National Informatics Center Network is a satellite-based network used by National Informatics Center, or NIC, to facilitate e-governance applications, whereas Web VPN is a virtual private network service, or VPN, offered by NIC for government employees only. Government agencies also instructed officials to keep user credentials like email and VPN access confidential and have them changed from time to time. Not just that, the government also banned uploading classified, secret or top secret files to the platform, citing fears of espionage or data leaks. Moving on to Bangladesh, the country has introduced newly designed banknotes that no longer feature the country's first president, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, replacing his images with those of natural landscapes and traditional landmarks. The move comes as the trial of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of the late Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, gets underway. She was ousted last year, remember, following an uprising in the country. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman being removed from those banknotes also marks a big turning point in the country's political landscape. He is recognized, after all, as one of the country's founding fathers. He led Bangladesh as a leader from the time of its liberation from Pakistan in 1971 until he was assassinated in a 1975 coup. The redesigned banknotes now featuring natural landscapes, landmarks, and others that showcase the cultural heritage of Bangladesh. Images of Hindu temples and Buddhist places of worship also featuring on the new currency notes. The current and existing banknotes and coins will continue to be in circulation. Notes for 3 of the 9 different denominations were released. The other denominations of the notes with new designs will be released in phases. Existing notes and coins will remain in circulation alongside the new notes. Initial notes issued in 1972 after Bangladesh changed its name from East Pakistan featured a map. On to the United States now. The FBI is investigating an incident in Colorado as a potential terrorism case. The attack injured several people at a public rally to support hostages in Gaza. The incident unfolded when a man allegedly launched a flaming device into a crowd. Witnesses said he shouted, "Free Palestine," as he deployed the homemade flamethrower. Authorities arrested the suspect and identified the man as 45-year-old Muhammad Suleiman, a resident of El Paso County in Colorado. The FBI said 8 people were injured and hospitalized. The injured including 4 men, 4 women, from 52 to 88 years old. The organization behind the rally, a group called Run for Their Lives, said the gathering started around 1 p.m. local time, adding the attack happened shortly after emergency responders were alerted when callers reported that people had been set on fire.
Came out today. Our officers rushed as quickly as they could, somewhere close to the area, and they immediately ran into a chaotic situation where a man was throwing Molotov cocktails and using other devices to hurt people.
The local police have not yet declared the incident as an act of terrorism. However, FBI officials are treating it as such.
The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder Police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
And on social media, the FBI director called the incident a targeted terror attack. The director of U.S. National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, meanwhile, said her counter-terrorism team is assisting the FBI and the local law enforcement with the investigation. The U.S. Homeland Security Secretary also confirmed her department is monitoring the terror attack closely. Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, alleged on X that the suspect had overstayed and was in the country illegally. The incident comes just 2 weeks after 2 staffers at the Israeli embassy, remember, were fatally shot in Washington, D.C. Attacks that are increasing concern about the escalating violence linked to international conflicts and rise in possible anti-Semitic incidents. India's northeast is facing floods as heavy rainfall continues to pound the region, killing over 30 people. Relentless rainfall triggered landslides, flash floods, rising river levels across Assam, Manipur, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim. In Manipur, the floods inundated the city of Imphal. In Assam's Jorhat, the overflowing Brahmaputra River has submerged lowlands, and posting a striking video showing a man risking his life to cross a heavily flooded river. Union Minister Kiren Rijiju has brought to light that Arunachal Pradesh has received the heaviest monsoon rains in the world. He also advised people to stay safe and assured them of government assistance. The Indian Met Department, meanwhile, has forecast continued heavy rainfall until June 5. Earlier in the day, the Indian Air Force was roped in to assist in the rescue operation in response to a request received from Assam and Arunachal Pradesh administrations. At least 14 people stranded on a tiny island in Arunachal Pradesh's lower Dibang Valley district have been rescued and airlifted to safety by the Indian Air Force. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah has assured of every possible help to the flood-hit areas. He also dialed the chief ministers of the northeastern states, asking them to arrange help and relief in the disaster-hit areas. In Assam, the heavy rainfall affected nearly 3.64 lakh people across 19 districts. The rising river levels submerged 764 villages, with over 3,500 hectares of farmland underwater. The Assam Chief Minister, meanwhile, visited the flood-hit areas, promising comprehensive support to those impacted. The government has also announced rupees 4 lakh for the families of the deceased. More than 10,000 people have been shifted to relief shelters after 2 days of intense rain in Tripura. In Sikkim, over 1,500 tourists have been stranded in various parts, and the situation is looking to worsen further should the rains not stop anytime soon. On to the UK now. In a bid to push armed forces to a state of war-fighting readiness, Britain is expanding its nuclear-powered attack submarine fleet, building 12 new submarines and 6 new munition factories. Unveiling a new defence spending plan, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer shared details of UK's effort to revamp its military and nuclear preparedness. These changes are part of a defence review designed to prepare the country to fight a modern war and counter the threat from Russia.
And in order to make sure that that isn't the case, we need to prepare. But we cannot ignore the threat that Russia poses. We've seen what's happened in Ukraine just over 3 years ago. Those tanks rolled across a border, something I think all of us thought we wouldn't really see in our lifetimes. the invasion of a European country. Russia has shown in recent weeks that it's not serious about peace, and we have to be ready.
Starmer also said he wants the UK to be the fastest military innovator in the NATO, especially as he says the country faces the most serious military threat since the Cold War. Listen to this.
Announced today that we're going to build at least 6 new munitions factories in the United Kingdom, generating over 1,000 jobs. We will build thousands of new long-range weapons in the United Kingdom to boost European deterrence, supporting around 800 more jobs. We will defend our homeland by investing in our air and missile defence to better protect these islands.
Not just the UK, in a renewed push for defence spending in Europe, NATO defence ministers, in fact, are gathering on June 5 in Brussels to discuss military investments of member states. The NATO Secretary General has proposed that alliance members meet higher targets for defence spending by 2032. Despite cuts to the military budget in recent years, Britain still ranks alongside France as one of Europe's leading military powers, as it plans to spend about $2 billion on weapons upgrade. However, the question is, can the UK afford it, given its economic scenario and sustained underinvestment in the country's defence industry? In the 2023-24 financial year, the UK spent £53.9 billion, or $73 billion, on defence. In 2025-26, it's set to increase to $59.8 billion, or approximately $81 billion. And that is equal to a growth rate of 2.4%. Meanwhile, the UK Defence Secretary has said there is no doubt that UK defence spending will rise to 3% of the GDP by 2034 at the latest. And this marks a turning point for the UK. Over the years, you see, the UK army has shrunk to its smallest since the Napoleon era, and a defence push like this seeks to change that. Taking lessons from the Ukraine war, there is also renewed emphasis on UK's combat readiness, as well as industrial capacity to produce fighting machines.
Hybrid Royal Navy, blending drones with warships, submarines and aircraft to patrol the North Atlantic and beyond, supporting thousands of brilliant shipbuilding jobs, including right here in Govan. Under our AUKUS alliance with the US and Australia, we will now deliver up to 12 attack submarines protecting Britain's waters, scaling up the industrial base in Barrow and all along the supply chain to deliver a new sub every 18 months, again creating thousands of jobs.
Poland has picked a first-time candidate as its next president. As one conservative president passes the baton to another, questions rise on what the new leader's policy outlook will be for the country and for Poland's warring neighbors, Russia and Ukraine. Our next report breaking it all down for you.
Poland has continued its tradition of keeping political power balanced. An intense runoff election on Sunday was followed by a victory of razor-thin margin for conservative candidate Karol Nawrocki. The right-wing leader, backed by opposition Law and Justice Party, secured 50.89% votes, putting a damper on his political rivals' premature victory celebrations. A former historian with a nationalistic outlook to Poland's past, Nawrocki hinged his election campaign on several key issues: a tough stance on immigration, opposition to wider abortion rights, and European Union's climate policy.
Zwyciężymy I ocalimy Polskę.
We are going to win and we will save Poland. We will not allow Donald Tusk to have a monopoly on power.
Władzy złej.
The conservative leader rode to victory with open backing from US President Donald Trump. Such was the support that Nawrocki made time for a quick US visit in the thick of election season, complete with a thumbs-up photo at the White House. Even US Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem made a special appearance at a Conservative Political Action Conference, backing Poland's now president-elect. Nawrocki will succeed incumbent Andrzej Duda, a conservative leader himself who served as Poland's president since 2015. As Karol Nawrocki prepares to assume presidential duties, there are questions about what his election means for Poland's domestic politics and, more importantly, foreign policy. If there is someone watching Poland's political landscape closely, it is Ukraine's president. Volodymyr Zelensky was one of the first global leaders to congratulate Nawrocki on his electoral win. Perhaps Poland's future outlook towards Ukraine is concerning for Zelensky. Many political analysts sense a shift coming.
On the right, we are seeing a rivalry between the PIS, the party close to Nawrocki, and the Confederation, the far right, which is even more anti-Ukrainian than the PIS and is gaining in strength. The bidding war to see who can be the most anti-Ukrainian could unfortunately be one of the factors influencing Polish policy towards Ukraine.
Karol Nawrocki's stance on Ukraine has been crystal clear. The conservative leader supports the country's struggle in the ongoing war with Russia. But Nawrocki does not want to support Ukraine's EU and NATO accession bid while a war is still going on. Nawrocki's apprehension on Kiev's bloc membership bid does not necessarily mean a better relationship with Moscow. In his stint as a historian, the conservative leader reportedly led efforts to topple monuments dedicated to the Soviet Red Army in the country. In response, Russia put Nawrocki on a wanted list. While the election mandate keeps power split between a center-right government and a far-right incoming president, challenges increase for Prime Minister Donald Tusk, as he faces the odds of a presidential veto on key legislation that may concern not just the people of Poland, but present and hopeful members of the European Union and NATO as well. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Shifting focus for now, it's been a tense weekend in Paris. PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, held a victory parade in the French capital a day after beating Inter Milan 5-0 to win the Champions League. Celebrating the historic win, Luis Enrique and his players went on an open-top bus with thousands of fans lining up the streets. As the bus stopped for a photo opportunity, pyrotechnics were set off behind the players, with the colors red, white and blue drifting through the air. But mayhem and violence also unfolded in Paris over the weekend as celebrations turned into clashes with the police. 2 people died, a large number got injured, over 500 people were arrested by the French police. Bus shelters were smashed, projectiles hurled at riot police who fired tear gas and water cannon to push back the surging crowds. According to the French Interior Ministry, a 17-year-old was stabbed to death in a southwestern town during a gathering to celebrate the Parisians' victory, while a woman riding a scooter died after she was hit by a car in the southwest of Paris. The French Interior Ministry added that 491 people were arrested in the capital itself. Flares, fireworks, torched cars, smashed bus shelters marked a chaotic night in France.
We're really not in favor of that violence on Champs-Élysées. We're a family, I even have children, and I wasn't able to bring them to the Champs-Élysées last night because you never know. So sure, we're not very proud of some people who are just looking for that.
Authorities had anticipated wild celebrations, and to manage the situation, over 5,000 police officers were reportedly deployed. The police used tear gas after the celebrations turned chaotic. Security was tightened around the iconic Paris Avenue. A day after the incident, the police used metal security barriers and vehicles to block off the Champs-Élysées and surrounding streets. On to Saudi Arabia now. This story is about a major crackdown on illegal entry to the holy city of Mecca. Saudi authorities have stopped more than 269,000 people without Hajj permits from entering Mecca. What more is known about the move, and what do the rules say? Let's break it all down for you. According to the rules, only those with permits will be allowed to perform the Hajj pilgrimage, even if they live in Mecca year-round. Saudi authorities have imposed fines of up to $5,000 and other punitive measures like deportation for anyone performing the pilgrimage without a permit. And according to Saudi authorities, unauthorized pilgrims made up large numbers of those who died in the summer heat last year. There are currently 1.4 million Muslims in Mecca officially, with more expected in the days to come. Muslim worshippers were seen performing the ritual, the circumambulation of the Kaaba, and praying in Mecca's Grand Mosque. Hajj is the annual Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca and involves a series of religious rituals. It's a once-in-a-lifetime obligation for every Muslim who can afford it and is physically able to do it. It's one of the most sacred traditions of Eid al-Adha, the ritual sacrifice of livestock. But this year in Morocco, that tradition is being paused, policed, and in some places banned altogether. With livestock numbers plummeting and red meat prices soaring, Moroccan authorities are cracking down hard ahead of Eid, shutting down illegal markets, intercepting trucks, and even urging citizens to skip the sacrifice entirely. Across the country, security forces and local administrators have launched a widespread control campaign. Local officials and police are monitoring the borders, rural roads, markets to stop the sale and transport of sheep intended for sacrifice. Several trucks, in fact, have already been seized and there are reports filed against drivers. This weekend itself, authorities shut down several weekly souks near Casablanca as part of the national effort to halt all Eid-related livestock transactions. In Deroua, authorities intercepted 2 trucks carrying illegally slaughtered sheep. The seized meat was immediately destroyed to prevent it from reaching the market. The crackdown comes after a rare appeal from King Mohammed VI, who called on the Moroccans to forego the ritual sacrifice this year. The country's dwindling livestock population, decimated by drought and rising fodder costs, prompted fears of a national food crisis. The government hopes this will curb the skyrocketing meat prices and preserve livestock for the months ahead. Interestingly, civil society groups are also backing the government's crackdown, calling for tighter controls to prevent black market sales, especially of banned offal like Dora. For a country where Eid sacrifices are deeply traditional, this is a drastic measure, but one that Morocco says is important to protect food security. A difficult but necessary sacrifice for the country's future. Moving on for now, pro-monarchy supporters have called off their protests in Kathmandu after the Nepal police released the RPP president Kamal Thapa and MP Deepak Singh, who were detained during Sunday's protests. The United People's Movement Committee that had initially announced the shutdown decided to withdraw the program after the release of these key leaders. However, pro-monarchy supporters are set to hold a meeting today to outline their next steps, signaling that the protest movement is far from over. On the fourth day of protest yesterday, pro-monarchy groups, including the RPP, clashed with authorities in Kathmandu. Demonstrators attempted to breach the security barricade and march towards the official residence of the Prime Minister. Amid this, the RPP Nepal chief and former Home Minister Kamal Thapa was detained for violating the restricted zone along with several others. Deepak Singh, an RPP leader and MP, was also taken into custody when he went to meet Thapa at the police station, though both were released a few hours later. Kathmandu Valley has been engulfed in persistent unrest driven by pro-monarchy protests demanding the return of the former king, Gyanendra Shah. On to the world of sport for now. You don't usually see a lot of emotion on a chessboard, but some defeats hit harder than others. World number one Magnus Carlsen was left in disbelief after throwing away a winning position against world champion Gukesh at a chess tournament in Norway. Take a look.
Magnus Carlsen is regarded by many as the greatest chess player of all time. And he was playing in front of his home crowd in the Norwegian city of Stavanger. He had the upper hand for much of the game, but Gukesh defended with remarkable composure and the game turned on its head during the end game. Carlsen was cruising to victory until he made a rare blunder under the tournament's unique increment time control designed to simulate rapid play. Gukesh seized the opportunity and registered his first ever classical win over the five-time world champion. The Norwegian was so furious with himself that he banged the table in disbelief and left the venue after patting the back of Gukesh. The Indian also took a moment to soak in the victory. In fact, Gukesh later admitted that 99 out of 100 times he would have lost the game, but said it felt like his lucky day. The win carried even more weight considering Carlsen had forced Gukesh to resign in the opening round of the tournament. Carlsen had earlier posted on X, quoting the web series The Wire, "You come at the king, you best not miss." And this time, Gukesh did not.
Are you a Jackie Chan fan? Well, the star is a household name for obvious reasons, and given the glorious career he has had. In fact, Jackie Chan's family history almost reads like a blockbuster script. What are we talking about? Well, during a recent interview, the 71-year-old legendary star revealed something rather astonishing about his late father. Any guesses? According to the star, his father, Charles, was a Chinese government spy in the 1940s. You heard that right. Chan, who was in his 40s at the time, learned of his father's secret during a drive. In his interview, Chan recalled the conversation with his father when he was driving a car. It delved into his father's espionage. Charles Chan also told the young Jackie that he was not a Chan, but Fang. This extensive family narrative was explored in Cheong's 2003 documentary, Traces of the Dragon, Jackie Chan and His Lost Family. And that's not all. Chan's mother also led a fascinating life. A former stage performer, his mother smuggled opium in Shanghai before moving to Hong Kong. Despite her very traditional nature, she supported Chan's acting career, though she could not watch his dangerous stunts. Already a sensation, Chan's Western breakthrough came with the 1995 action comedy Rumble in the Bronx. He achieved greater success co-starring with Chris Tucker in the Rush Hour buddy cop franchise. And his latest release, Karate Kid Legends, is running in theaters now. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
The Earth is sending distress signals. wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one.